Governor Kevin Stitt will deliver his fifth State of the State address and his first since winning re-election on Monday. Shortly after that, the gavel will fall and the first session of the 59th legislature will commence. Our Capitol Correspondent Jason Doyle has a preview.
Welcome to our annual legislative kickoff.
Legislative leaders took to the stage during the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce's legislative kickoff breakfast to talk about their agendas for the upcoming session. Education and workforce development were the top issues for leadership. While he's a proponent of school vouchers, Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat is allowing that process to take shape without his version of possible legislation.
You will notice that I didn't file that this year. It's not because I've changed my opinion on it, because I'm looking at my caucus members and my colleagues and saying, okay, you didn't like the solution I offered. Let's get parents more choice somehow, and let's improve education. The only thing that's unacceptable is the status quo.
Treat also noted that a proposed $541 million education reform package proposed by Senator Adam Pugh will be considered.
To make clear, it's not endorsed by the Senate caucus yet, but he's going to work on that. It is, however, leadership driven from him as the chair of that committee, and it has some strategic pay in it. It has reform. It has some charter school reform. I think it is a tremendous package.
Senate Democrat leader Kay Floyd feels the legislature needs to address the learning gap directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
We have a learning gap. We know we have a learning gap. I looked up some numbers in Oklahoma. Our math scores for 8th graders, and I wrote them down, dropped 13 points on proficiency, and the national average drop was 8 points.
House Speaker Pro Tem Kyle Hilbert says the state needs more education funding and reforms.
Yes, we need more funding, and I think we got to do both things together. Yes, reforms that have also been mentioned, but also yes, funding as well. And having that conversation of where do we make strategic investments to continue to move the needle in education, and we do. And yes, those reforms are necessary, but also we also need more funding.
House Democrat leader Cindy Munson advises the way teachers are being treated both by elected officials and in the classroom is making it harder to retain the best educators for Oklahoma schools.
I have the 2020 Bethany Public Schools Teacher of the Year in my district, and she let me know that she left the classroom. And she said, of course, pay has something to do with it. We all want to make more money. We want to be valued and compensated properly. She said, but the main reason I left the classroom is because I don't feel like I'm treated as a professional.
Munson says in her talks with business leaders, they want lawmakers to keep a focus on education, which helps enable a good workforce.
I go and tour numerous businesses, and just in the last couple of weeks, the things that have come up the most when we're talking about workforce is investing in common education, early childhood education, higher education, career tech, and making sure that our students have exactly what they need so they're prepared for the future, so you're ready to hire them.
Critical labor shortages, like in the nursing field, are impacting Oklahoma at a time when leaders are trying to direct federal relief funds to address the staffing shortages at hospitals around the state.
We set aside $65 million to address the nursing shortage from CNAs all the way to RNs, BSNs, and everything in between. And we passed that funding in June. That became effective in August. And so those funds still have not yet been deployed. But I'm excited for when they do get deployed and get released to higher ed institutions as well as career tech, so that they can then begin expanding their classes, because we need it. And we don't need it today. We needed it yesterday.
As far as the leftover American Rescue Plan Act funds, Hilbert contends workforce will get most of the attention.
But I do anticipate a good bulk of those funds will be spent on workforce development. That's been a priority of the House and the Senate. But we also have new legislators that have just been elected, so I think they should have some input as well on how those funds are spent.
However, Senator Floyd hopes the ARPA projects, which were vetoed, and nonprofit groups will get some of that funding.
I'm hopeful that when we get back into session, we'll be able to find a way to get that money to the nonprofits and to the groups that weren't able to get the money. So we do have a little bit left. My understanding is that we're going to try to hit it quickly and get it done at the first of session.
Treat says inflation could be impacting some of those projects already approved.
One of the things that causes me a little concern, just want to put it on your radar, is the inflationary cost of all products since we devoted those dollars. I'm seeing some people coming back to the table and saying, whoa, our project, we thought I had a conversation just a while ago, project It's going to be $350,000 is what they budgeted, and the lowest bid they got was over $500,000. And so we'll see some of that.
All the leaders agree. If voters pass State Question 820 to legalize adult use cannabis, also known as recreational marijuana, lawmakers need to do a better job regulating the cannabis industry than they did when setting up the medical marijuana program.
We'll be responsive to whatever the voters do in March. I will be voting no, and we have been having to clean up the mess that was created by the original state question ever since, and we'll continue to try to make sure we honor the will of the people of Oklahoma.
I'm confident that if 820 passes, that we as a legislature have learned our lessons, and we will have more say in the administrative process that we use moving forward. And I don't know what the people of the state are going to do on the state question, but if it passes, we're going to have to do things differently.
The legislative session begins on Monday, February 6th. Jason Doyle, the Oklahoma News Report.